Welcome back to Autism at Home. My name is Joshabeth Isaacs, and this is our 5th lesson in our following instruction series. If you've been keeping up so far, here's what we've already covered. How to teach instructions come here to the table and then in play, as well as basic instructions, taught naturally and taught formally. Today, we will focus on a specific instruction that can sometimes be genuinely difficult for many children with autism, sitting nicely at the table. And by sitting nicely at the table, I don't mean just sitting for 1 second, but long enough to learn meaningfully. For any parents watching out there, does this look familiar?
Write 2. Right, hold your pencil. Write 2.
It may seem to some like such a simple skill to sit at the table, but many children genuinely struggle with this. Yet, learning to sit at the table is a necessary skill. Learning while sitting is more comfortable, keeps a child in one spot and from wriggling around too much, and also gets their attention better. Sitting nicely at a table is also a basic expectation in most schools. In this lesson, we will have only one focus, which is to teach the child how to sit at the table and for a reasonable duration to learn. The challenging skill here is sitting. For this reason, we will not be expecting a child to perform another challenging activity like learning to do a puzzle or learning a worksheet, as then we're asking them to demonstrate a second challenging skill in addition to sitting. Therefore, do prepare a fun, reinforcing activity at the table to set your child up to be successful. Before we start teaching, here are some prerequisites. Firstly, a child must be able to understand the concept of first, then, which is to be able to do something unpreferred first before a preferred activity. In this case, sitting at the table before getting a reward. Secondly, a child must be able to follow a schedule. This means that the child is at the very least willing to clean up their play and transition from play to table, even if it is for a brief moment. First, then, and following a schedule would have been taught in the Starter Kit series on an introduction to teaching cooperation. So do check that out and ensure your child has these 2 skills before moving on. Thirdly, ideally, your child should be able to understand come here to the table, which we just thought a couple of lessons ago. Just like the schedule, this will make the transition to table so much easier. Next, make sure you have the materials you need for teaching before getting started. You will need a table play schedule, a first then board, which says first sit, then reward. It is preferable to use a picture of your child's favorite reward or have a few different pictures for this. You also need a timer and reinforcement that you can ideally break into smaller parts, whether it's Legos or their favorite snack, or even different toys in a cooking play set. We'll explain why in a bit. Applying the principle of breaking skills down, we want to start at the shortest duration, then build our way up. The maximum time your child should sit depends on their age and skill level. For children who are just learning how to cooperate, they may typically be expected to sit at the table for at least 2 to 3 minutes before they are ready to learn anything else. Here is an example of how sitting at the table can be broken down. To teach staying at the table, set up your table with the materials you need. Assuming your child understands a basic table play schedule, this is what we will do to get a child to the table. First, begin by foreshadowing the end of playtime, and that table time is coming up. After they have cleaned up, show your child with a reinforcer they like and say, "Come here." If they are motivated, they should reach out or attempt to follow and grab it. Third, bring the reinforcement to the table. Before you give it to them, point to the first then board and say, "First sit for however many amount of seconds or minutes, then reward." Now remember how we mentioned needing a reinforcement you can break into smaller pieces? This is why. Once your child reaches the table and sits, reward them over the duration they sat at the table, all the while praising them for good sitting or great sitting nicely. Once the time is over, they can return to play. Repeat the process again at the end of your next play. Let's have a look.
Bell peppers and tomato. That is right. Playtime is almost finished. Okay, Missy? Yep. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Playtime is finished. Let's clean up. Clean up, clean up. That's right. Hey, look. Playtime is done. It's table time. And look what I have. Let's go, let's go. All right, come here. Very nice coming to table. Okay, first sit nicely for 10 seconds and then blocks, okay? All right, good sitting nicely. Very good sitting nicely. Good sitting nicely, Missy. Oh wow, 10 seconds. Here you go. The whole bag is yours.
Notice how we use motivation to get a child to sit longer and longer by spacing out the reinforcement. Now, that all looked well and easy, but let's talk about what can happen in real life. These are just a few tips we've learned at EAP to prevent common problems that might come up when teaching a child to sit nicely. Sometimes even sitting at the table for a few seconds is a challenge. If that is, add an extra step before of just having a child stand at the table for increasing durations, playing with the rewards they got. Then you can gently nudge them into the chair. Maybe your child might also have a tendency to rock back and forth on their chair. A preventative tip is to have their chairs against the back of a wall. Use a sturdy but comfortable chair with a back that is not easy to rock instead of more fragile seating like stools. But what if your child starts to slide off the chair? Besides tucking the table closer to a child's torso, placing a sturdy footstool or box for them to rest their feet on can make it more difficult to slide off the chair. Finally, in all these scenarios, remember to always check your 3 key strategies first. Break the skill down. Ensure your child is sitting at a duration that is not too long. Reinforcement. Ensure your child is strongly motivated by what they're working for. And practice. Get enough practice for the child to become more and more confident at that step. Do remember that children often demonstrate task avoidance behaviors when they are not motivated to do the activity or the task is just too difficult. Some children with special needs may also genuinely have motor coordination difficulties that make it difficult for them to sit upright in a chair. If you suspect this is the case, it is worth getting a trained physical therapist's guidance on strengthening their motor coordination. You may need to sit on a ball or sit on a stool or a beanbag. Now, before we move on, check your knowledge with a quick pop quiz.
Anya is playing with her favorite tea set. Her mother foreshadows the end of play and shows her the teddy bear she can get. Anya follows mom to the table, but only sits for 5 out of 10 seconds before she whines and runs back to her tea set. What can Anya's mom do differently? Use a shorter duration, use a stronger reinforcement, lock Anya in with her leg, or practice more. It sounds like Anya's tea set was more motivating than the teddy bear. Maybe Anya's mom could try a stronger reinforcement like the tea set instead of the teddy bear. Stefan and his father are practicing sitting nicely at the table. Stefan's father uses his strongest reinforcement, a Superman action figure. When Stefan gets to the table, Dirk rewards him with the action figure. Then Stefan runs off with the action figure before the timer is up. What can Stefan's father do differently? It is great Stefan's father can identify the strongest reinforcement for Stefan, but because the action figure is just one object, once Stefan got it, there was no motivation to stay any longer at the table. Dad might need to try a more piece-by-piece reinforcement. Maybe Superman stickers.
Now it's your turn. Identify the shortest time your child can sit at a table for and write an items list starting from there. Using the method you saw, begin practicing sitting nicely. Don't worry if your child does not comply perfectly or consistently at first, or all the time. The important thing is to break the skill down, get enough practice, and reinforce well. So that's it on our lesson on sitting nicely at the table. In our next and final lesson of the series, we will talk about nice hands. Not many petties or pretty hands, but keeping calm hands to oneself, having gentle hands. If your child tends to engage in any behaviors like hitting, scratching, pulling, pushing, or basically not having nice hands, this lesson is for you, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, do check out our free online resource platform, Autism at Home, which has all the corresponding articles and necessary downloadables for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram to stay updated. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon.